First Sergeant Cap here with Company D, 2nd United States Sharpshooters, and today we are in the craft room for a repair. A couple of events ago, my bayonet scabbard tore right here along the stitch line, and I need to get this back into working order for our next event. Now, normally I wouldn't think to do a video on such a quick repair as this, but I think that having a basic knowledge of some leather working skills and even having a small leather working toolkit is such a helpful thing to have as a reenactor, especially since so much of our gear is made of leather. It's nice to have a few things on hand, so that way if something like this happens, you don't have to pay someone to fix it or be stuck having to buy a new one. I already have everything I need to make this repair. So the first thing that I need to do is finish picking out the rest of these stitches. I'll just use a little seam ripper for that. And then I'm going to go down to my shop and grind out these rivets. So it looks like I only have to replace this sort of straight piece of leather. So I'm going to go work on this and we'll get back together. Well, we have ground our copper rivets and picked our stitches, and now it is time to recreate our damaged piece of leather. Now, you may be wondering, how do I know what sort of thickness of leather to get? Well, the simplest way is, if you're fortunate enough to be able to buy leather in person somewhere, is to just take the piece you need to recreate and just put it up against other pieces of leather until you find one that's as close as possible. I happen to have this 5-ounce leather laying around, and while it's just a little bit thicker, I think it'll work out just fine. You can also purchase these leather gauges, and all you have to do is take your piece of leather, slide it in, and it will tell you how many ounces your leather is. So these are handy, but not totally necessary. So then you just put everything back together. Fortunately, these mate up pretty well, and then you just trace that on your new piece of leather. Then all I'm going to do is just use a sturdy straight edge and a sharp knife, and I will get to cutting. When you get into cutting anything sort of thick, don't try to cut it all off in one go. You'll get better results, and it's a lot safer to make a series of light cuts rather than one super strong power cut. There we have our stitch holes punched. I went ahead and used my leather punch and made the holes for the new rivets. My stitch hole punching doesn't look as nice as I normally would like, but sometimes that just comes with the territory of trying to replicate a pattern, and it tends to move around a little bit. But I'm not too worried, because it's all going to be covered by stitching when we're all said and done, and no one will be the wiser. So this is starting to look like a scabbard again. And just like that, we are getting closer. So one thing I noticed when I was disassembling this is that it looks like all the pieces were dyed prior to being stitched, which makes a lot of sense. So what we're going to do now is get a nice piece of paper or something to work on, because leather stain is messy. And I just have some black and one of my little swabs. We are just going to dye this. So you can see the backside wasn't stained, but the maker stained all the edges, so we'll do the same. And with that, we have a completed repair ready to go back into the field. All we needed was a little scrap of leather, some rivets, some dye, and some common leather working tools that would be great for any reenactor to have available to them. While the dye was drying, I went down to the shop and polished up my bayonet so it was looking nice for our next event. It's so great to be able to repair your own gear because our equipment in the hobby costs a lot of money, and this would be an expensive thing to throw away and have to get replaced. But this literally cost me nothing to repair because I already had everything. And I'm sure many of you have stories to share about pieces of equipment and gear and uniforms that you've repaired either at home or in the field. And I think it would be awesome for you to share your joys and your journeys along the way of keeping your gear in tip-top functioning shape. We hope this video has been helpful and useful. The only thing in this video that I didn't show was stitching the bayonet sheath onto the belt loop. And that's just because it's the same as the rest of it was. The only thing to keep note, just like this, is to take a little bit of time to align the stitches, the stitch holes in the two pieces, and then it's just a straightforward saddle stitch all the way around, and you just knot it and you're done. So thanks as always for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll catch you on the next one.